about the HSHF initiative, the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food program. So this webinar is the first of an 8-part series, and it will be running fortnightly. It's been organized by the AFSA and Sky team, and they will be held, as I said, every second week at the same time. We will give you the detail of this just now. Before we formally kickstart with our proceedings this morning, I would like to invite a representative from AFSA to briefly present the organization for us. I am assuming, I'm just looking at participants. Charles, am I going to be invited, Michael, to present AFSA in this webinar?
Oh, yes, Michael, yeah.
So the floor is yours, Michael.
Good morning, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Michael Farrelly. I'm seeing Charles on the screen. I'm not sure if people are getting me. The Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa is was formed in about 2011, and as an alliance of networks, a network of networks across Africa. Its members are organizations of farmers, associations, networks of fisherfolk, pastoralists, environmentalists, youth, women's organizations, and together we have about 40 network members, and they are active in 50 of the 54, is it 54 or 55 African countries. So our goal is to promote the cause of agroecology and food sovereignty, to work towards a just future for African food systems. And you can see more information on our website, which I'll post in the chat. I'm based in our regional West Africa office in Senegal. Our head office is in Kampala, Uganda. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Michael. And now I would like to ask Stephanie Aubin to please present the Seed and Knowledge Initiative.
Thanks, Sasha, and good morning, everyone. So the Seed and Knowledge Initiative, SKY, is a regional partnership of 15 diverse organizations, local NGOs, community-based organizations, farmer organizations, research institutions, also national networks. So those organizations came together in 2014 to promote farmer-led systems in the context of agroecology and food sovereignty in Southern Africa. We work both at the grassroots level, supporting farmers, and at the national, regional, and global levels, doing advocacy there. And since 2020, we've been collaborating with AFSA to jointly design and implement the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food initiative. 6 SKY partners are hosting a Healthy Soil, Healthy Food Center. SFH in Malawi, Kasisi in Zambia, Poret, Soro, and Shinika Trust in Zimbabwe, and Bawatch in South Africa. So these 6 SKY partners are leading the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food movement in the SKY partnership and in the Southern African region, while the SKY regional team, mostly based in South Africa, which I'm part of, is providing coordination support. And similarly, if you want to know more about SKY and our involvement in the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food initiative, I'll put the link of our website in the chat. Thanks, Sasha.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Can I ask you, please, Michael, to resume sharing of the master slide deck? And while you do so, because I see people already introducing themselves in the chat box, we would like you to please rather use the Kobo Toolbox link that I have dropped in here, and which makes it much easier to track who's participating and where you're from. So when you introduce yourself, please use that link. Now I would like to ask Charles Tumuhe, please, from AFSA, to tell us more about what the Healthy Soil and Healthy Food Initiative is.
Thanks a lot. The Healthy Soil, Healthy Food Initiative is a platform that was established collectively or jointly by the Alliance for Food Sovereignty in Africa that Michael has already talked about, and the Seed and Knowledge Initiative that Stefan Obin has already talked about. And all this was done to facilitate the transition to agroecology, working with healthy soil, healthy food centers as centers of excellence, to advance practices for management of soils, healthy soils. And we have 4 areas that we focus on. That is generating knowledge, mainly through research. And number 2, promoting practices, healthy soil practices or agroecological practices. But number 2, doing work around advocacy, policy advocacy, influencing decision makers to appreciate the value of agroecology, of healthy soils and healthy food. And lastly, supporting markets, as we advocate for agroecological farm inputs. We want to be sure that the markets out there are streamlined to promote the spread of such. So in brief, that's all I can say about the Healthy Food initiative. But maybe just to give a summary, we are working with farmers across the continent, 10 countries so far, 15 organizations, and all we are doing is to support agroecology trainers, support farmers to design, number 1, number 2, to test, number 3, to share, and eventually spread practices for healthy soil management. Yes, that's all I can say for now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Charles. And while we have you on the mic, we would like you to just basically, because you've been very much involved in the design of this webinar series, to quickly tell us what the next sessions are going to be about.
We have arranged a series of 8 webinars. This is the very first one today. We'll be doing this every after 2 weeks, and each webinar will be on a Friday, same time. That's 12 EAT, 11 South African time, 9 GMT. This very time we are starting today's webinar. So every after 2 weeks, we'll be having a similar webinar. And as you can see on the screen, today we are having a webinar on biofertilizers. But after 2 weeks, we'll be having another one on crop health. How do we produce healthy food, but at the same time managing crop pests and diseases? We'll have another webinar. And then again, after 2 weeks, on technologies for seeds. Yeah, so technologies, agroecological technologies for managing seeds, issues around seed treatment, for example. We'll also be having a webinar on on-farm trials, participatory action research, and agroecological markets. Will be another one. The 6th one will be on integrating livestock in agroecosystems and how they, support nutrient recycling and the other agroecosystem processes. Policy and advocacy issues for healthy soils will be the 7th one, and the last one will be around practices for M&E for healthy soils. Yeah, thank you so much, Shasha.
Thank you so much, Charles. So yes, so today's session is about making and applying biofertilizers, and we will be scrutinizing this question. Next slide, please. Very much with a critical eye, because there's been lots of exposure and experience about this. We've got sorry, one slide back, excuse me. Yeah, no, this is okay. Sorry, this is the right slide. We've got 3 speakers today invited to share their insights into this theme, and the other sessions that you have organized will also have an amazing lineup of experienced practitioners on the topics that you've mentioned. So today, the issues we want to address is just basically understanding the spectrum of biofertilizers that are out there. We will touch on how we make them, but we're really now, thinking, okay, what are the best biofertilizers that should be made in a specific context, taking into consideration the resource constraints of farmers in our context. What are the factors one should be aware of when applying the biofertilizers, and how does one determine which specific biofertilizer to use, because there is a range out there. What will be very interesting is to hear insights from the practitioners in the 3 fields that we have represented here about their experience of how do these biofertilizers effectively enhance food nutrition. And obviously, you know, the promotion of biofertilizers does not come without challenges. And we would like to ponder these a little bit, and hopefully also reflect and think about how we can further support the uptake of biofertilizer making and applying in our respective contexts. So I think we can go ahead with screening a short little video interlude that is extracted from the series of video that Sky has made for us. We will be sharing the links to these great videos, and you can view these videos in your own time. We will be sharing the links to these. This is basically your how-to guide on how to make those biofertilizers. So Michael, if you're happy to share that brief extract for us. Michael, are we okay with screening the video, or do we need to defer this a little bit? What we could do so long is, Charles, drop in the chat box the links to the videos that were made by Sky. And there's basically a series. There's an intro one. There's one focusing on native microbes, one on fermented cow manure, one on bokashi making, and one on lactic acid bacteria. So this is like the valuable resources we're recommending you to look at in your own time. And we also want to make sure that you get the benefits of these presentations. So we will be dropping in the chat box the link to the drive where you can also access all the resources of today's webinar. So the PowerPoints are there, and they are there in English and in French, so that when we screen share the English version, Francophone participants can also access the same resource in French.
Would you like me to share the Sky Biofertilizer workshop video at this time?
Yes, if you can at this stage, that would be perfect. Thank you.
Yes, only 38 seconds, Sasha.
Yeah.
Are we seeing that?
Yes, we can see your screen share. Thank you.
One of the major challenges facing African farmers is low soil fertility. To address this, farmers are increasingly encouraged to buy expensive inorganic fertilizers, which push up the price of food production, pollute the environment, increase greenhouse gas emissions, and do nothing.
There is a lag in the video, Michael. We can't actually see the video unfolding.
Been introduced to an alternative, homemade biofertilizers.
Okay, that's as good as it's gonna get, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a bandwidth thing, eh? So anyway, we tried, and the links to that very same video is the top one that Charles has shared in the chat box. So just to finish on some housekeeping, as mentioned, we would like all participants to this webinar to share the details in the toolbox, the Kobo toolbox provided. I'll drop this again in the chat box. And you will be listening now to our presenters. There are 3 seasoned and experienced practitioners on the question of biofertilizers. If you've got any questions that you want to ask them, I'm sure there'll be a lot coming. We would like to invite you to please drop your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can drop a question there, and the contributors to the webinar can also address them once they finish speaking. I think with no further ado, I would like to invite our colleague Juan Fran to get ready and maybe screen share his PowerPoint so that we can start with our first presentation. I'm also going to be dropping the Francophone version of this presentation so that our French participants can have it open on the side of their screen and follow the conversation. So Juan Fran has been with AFSA for many years, I think, and he's passionate about working with different regenerative techniques and tools using locally available resources to create low-cost, sustainable solutions for farmers at any scale. So Juan Fran trained as an agronomist at the University of Spain, and since completing his studies, he has been traveling around the globe to learn and teach different approaches to land management, mainly through his hands-on experience. So over the past few years, Juan Fran has been working with smallholder farmers, sometimes in remote communities, sometimes with larger scale commercial farmers. And he's been bringing organic agricultural practices to the field. And currently, Juan Fran, as I understand it, you are studying towards your PhD in Spain. So thank you very much for joining us today and sharing the wealth of information you will be sharing, no doubt. Over to you.
Thank you, Sasha, for the welcoming. Thank you, everybody, and welcome. Good morning. So to me, it's a pleasure to be here, to be part of this series of webinars. What I'm going to do today with my presentation is an overall view of the biofertilizer, the background, because the speaker, the second and third speaker, I think they are going to talk a bit more detailed about some biofertilizers and some recipes. So to me, what I want that you get in here is the background and the vision of the different range of the biofertilizer. For that, we need to know first what is a biofertilizer. A biofertilizer is a substance that contains microbes, and those microbes, if you put some food or an accommodation, so what they are going to do is to create or to make a fermentation process. During that fermentation process, we are going to get some products are the ones that are beneficial for soil, plant, and also for the microbiology in both parts. So what contains after the fermentation process that biofertilizer contain microbes. Some of them are living, other are latent, so are sleeping, but afterward they can wake up if they find a proper environment. Also, the biofertilizer contains the byproducts. This is the very critical thing of the content of final product, because it's carbohydrates, phytohormones, organic acid, etc. It's not just elements that you put in the plants with the biofertilizer. Another thing that is very important in content is the minerals that we'll see in other slides, how we can play with the different minerals. And also a biofertilizer contains energy that is released through the fermentation process. So this is what is the main products or the main compounds that you can find in a final product in a biofertilizer. For that, in here, I put two different ways to make the biofertilizer, the ingredients. We can see on the left the basic ingredients that with the cow dung. The cow dung in this case will be the inoculant, will be the workers that make that fermentation process happens. So this microbiology will need food, a source of food for that fermentation. So the source of food is by molasses, a sugar compounds, and also milk is rich in proteins. For a basic biofertilizer, we can use ashes here, as will be the content of minerals that we are going to put in the plant at the end. The other way or another approach to make a biofertilizer is by using native microbes. So we can reproduce microbes from the place, and then we use instead that this inoculant that will be the cow dung. For the native microbes, the ingredient will be the same as a source of sugar, a source of lactose, milk, and also minerals. It's very important to me always that we need to understand the role of each ingredient in order that substitute that ingredients we don't have in our land, or we don't have, it's not easy to find. The quality of the ingredients is a critical factor as well when you make a biofertilizer. The same that the ingredients, you have to check appropriate. Okay, the equipment we use for biofertilizer is an 8-8 container. We can use a 200-liter container or even a 1-liter bottle. The point is to create an airlock container. So we allow to put out all the oxygen of the fermentation, but the oxygen cannot go in. So it's very critical to buy a proper equipment like valves or the pipe, and also how you can make, or how you can put in the biofertilizer in here in order don't lose any air or oxygen in order to make a proper fermentation process. And this is the third critical factor to me about to make biofertilizer. First, we already mentioned is ingredients. Second will be a proper equipment. And third, allow a proper process. So we need to check that, for example, in this case, a compost or abokashi is getting hot. So the fermentation process is happening, or on the right side, the color, etc. The right side is in Kenya, this picture. To know if a biofertilizer is good or is bad, we can go very easy just with the color, or with the visual assessment, with the smell, the color, etc. Or we can go from lab analysis or other more complex analysis. But just here in the image, you can see a bad biofertilizer on the left. The color is green, is dark. And a good biofertilizer that we see on the right side is amber, yellow, orange. So it's very easy to know you already make a good or bad biofertilizer, the quality. You can use the biofertilizer by foliar and soil spray. Depending on the vegetative state of the plant, you can dilute between 3 and 10% of a liquid biofertilizer in water. So this means 3 liters of water in 97 liters, or 3 liters of biofertilizer in 97 liters of water, or 10 liters of biofertilizer in 90 liters of water. It's much better if we apply the biofertilizer in the morning or evening, because the stomach are open wider, so the plant can take much better this product. Also, outward underneath of the leaves. If we are going to apply biofertilizer of this kind of products in the soil, it's very important that the soil has to be plenty of organic matter through mulch or green manure, etc., etc. And also the quality of the water, so has to be no treated, no chlorine, and also preferably no hard water, because if you use water that has chlorine, what you're doing is you're killing off the microbiology. Remember, the microbiology in the biofertilizer are the workers, are the ones who make the fermentation process. The critical factor of using, we need to recognize that biofertilizer have multiple use. For example, root or seed inoculant. You can, before to plant seed, you can put a biofertilizer, or even you can immerse a root in a biofertilizer prior to plant. Also through irrigation, or to enhance or improve compost. Another critical factor is the planification. Once you understand how works the biofertilizer, is to use the right dose, the right product, and the right time, the 3 R. So that is critical in order to get the most benefit in the production and the use of the biofertilizer. Why we should use biofertilizer? Because the biofertilizer create a significant benefit in whole system. It's not just the plant through the phytohormone or the complex compounds that contain a biofertilizer make all the system healthy. And also you can play in this with this approach different types of make biofertilizers. For example, you can make a basic biofertilizer that just I saw, or you can make a specific biofertilizer with specific minerals, depending of the plant growth stage, or for example, in the mineral deficiencies. We use biofertilizers well to treat pests and disease, or to encourage the immune system of the plant. That is depends of the ingredients that you put, or the different minerals that you add in, or microbes to the biofertilizers. So if you understand the base of the biofertilizer, then you can play and you can make 100 of different types of biofertilizers depending on your context or what you're looking for. This is coming because I mentioned at the beginning, biofertilizers is not just about adding elements. Biofertilizers well is about adding phytohormones, organic acid, etc. That make that the plants is healthy prior an attack of any pest or disease. So what we are doing is we are managing, or we are doing a preventive agriculture to make healthy plants in order that the plants can attack or can be strong against any pest or disease. If you, for example, just add elements with no phytohormones or no secondary metabolism, you are creating rescue agriculture. Rescue agriculture, the plant is going to be healthy, but doesn't have the power enough to be against any pest or disease. So it's for that the beauty of biofertilizer, if we compare with just adding minerals or sulfates like conventional agriculture used to do. The approach to fertilization is to nourish or to feed in the soil.
Pardon me, one. So, 5 minutes to go.
Yeah, thank you. Here in my timer as well. We feed the soil, we are creating a good environment for future. It's just we apply foliar spray is just short-term fertility. So it's very important to have this approach when we manage land, to create a good soil to long fertility, and in the meantime manage the mineral deficiencies through foliar spray. And here is, I think, Sam is going to talk more about bokashi. So with bokashi, what we are doing is building long-term fertility through soil amendment, and it's like a pre or probiotic in the plant digestive system. So the plant digestive system is the soil. So we need to create a good environment with microbiology, organic matter, humus, etc., to build a long-term fertility. But what I mentioned, in the meantime, we manage short-term fertility for biostimulant, liquid fertilizer, etc. And all the microbes that are in there can produce metabolite, can make a predation against some pathogens that maybe is in the environment, or even increase the viability of some minerals through chelation. So make the minerals more available to the plant, so the plant can spend more energy in create some substances against pest and disease. Also, we do some other preparation. In this case, here is the ash brew, and is to protect, for example, in this case, the plant. So we create a layer around the leaves, so the plant have a mechanical, a physical layer that also increase the resistance against pest and disease. Another aside objectives, for example, increase photosynthesis, etc., etc. This is very important to me because many people think that to make biofertilizer is just to use a set of recipes, but no, it's not a set of recipes. It's to change the way that you think. Currently, you can find many bio input in the market, in the new market, so you can find, but the beauty of the value of this is that you can make it, and also you can understand what you're doing. So is when we start with the approach value versus price. The biofertilizers have value. What you buy in the shop have a price. So it's very important to change the way that we think about agriculture or about the biofertilizers, this type of product. And the core principle is do it yourself, recognize and maximize the property sources in order to use them. to make biofertilizer, liquid, solid, etc., and reestablish the balance in managed land, and how we work as closer as a forest work. We are going to create a more healthy system. So we need to mimic how natural system works. And the fourth point is quite important to me, is to bring back the knowledge and decision making from companies to farmers. So when we make biofertilizers, you are in charge of your decision, and also you understand what you're doing. And with this, what we can do is to, another beauty is to fit or tweak all the resources to local knowledge and sources. And just to finish, to me, the most important and the core of fertility, and if we understand this, we will understand about fertilization. The agriculture, to make agriculture, is just is the art of harvesting the sun to increase photosynthesis and return back to the earth what is coming from the earth. So it's just to increase photosynthesis and create closed loops with everything that is coming through the earth. So that is agriculture and that is fertilization. So any question, I'll be very happy to respond. Thank you to you for giving me the chance to share some skill and some insight about biofertilizer. So thank you very much, Sasha.
Thank you very much, Juan. I hope the interpretation could keep up with your pace. Juan, I didn't ask you at the beginning, but do you mind just briefly switching on your video so that we can see our speaker? We're gonna keep the question time to later. We want to hear all our speakers first. So long people who want to address the question directly to you, if we can invite people to please drop it straight into the Q&A box, and we will bring them all up a bit later. So thank you very much, Juan, for this input and the very nice concepts that you bring forth. I'll be commenting on these a bit later as well. So moving forward, I would like to ask our second presenter, Samuel, to get ready. We will be screen sharing, Samuel, your PowerPoint. And it's going to be about hearing, a first-hand experience on the subject matter to your experience in Uganda. I'm just going to introduce you briefly first, Samuel Nyanzi, the Executive Director at the Rural Community and Development called RUSID in Uganda. And RUSID is one of the 15 healthy soil, healthy food centers within Mitaya, Uganda. Samuel, you are the chairman of the Organic Movement of Uganda, where you actively spearhead initiatives to promote soil health practices. And Samuel's journey began with an education foundation in biodynamic agriculture. And he has worked as a sustainable agricultural advisor and instructor. Samuel currently sits on the highest policy-making body of Buganda Kingdom, which is a cultural institution in Uganda. Samuel, thank you so much for availing yourself to share your experience in Uganda with us today. And the floor is over to you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Sasha, for actually moderating this workshop. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Samuel, as Sasha has said, from RUSID, and I'm very, very excited to be part of this series of biofertilizer production and using it to share my experience here. When you look at my slides, if I could go to the next slide, you could see I'm talking about the concept of healthy soil, healthy food initiative. And when I look at this,
I think you need to switch off the other devices.
When I look at actually the concept.
Samuel, you've got two devices that you registered through. You need to switch one off because there will be an echo.
Yeah. So
okay.
Is that clear now?
All good. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah. I'm talking about the concept of healthy soil because we are looking at healthy soil so that we are able to get the healthy foods. So for us at RUSID, we are talking about what is the concept. over the time since we were introduced into biofertilizer, we've actually found out that health of soil depends on how active the soil organisms are. For example, how microorganisms are active, but also how macroorganisms are active. So a healthy soil must actually have the presence of both the micro and macroorganisms. When I'm talking about macro, I'm talking about termites, I'm talking about ants, I'm talking about earthworms. But also when I'm talking about microorganisms, I'm talking about fungi, bacteria, nematodes, and others. The soil fertility agents are normally present in the soil. So when you see them, then we have a big challenge of how do we support these microorganisms, these living organisms. So I think we are looking at healthy soil, but we are talking about how do we support these living organisms? How do we give them food? How do we give them proper environment? How do we give them proper shelter? Once we do that, they will continue keeping the soil healthy and fertile. And actually, that is what is happening in the natural forests. Another slide, please. Yeah, then if you look at that, what are the biofertilizers? What are biofertilizers? All biofertilizers undergo fermentation, either anaerobic fermentation, that is aerobic fermentation, it should be aerobic, anaerobic fermentation like supermicro, native microbe solid, and native microbe liquid, and activated biochar. When I'm talking about supermicro, this is a mixture of organic matter, which actually was implemented by somebody called Magro, and these fertilizers are put together in a barrel and they ferment. They ferment without oxygen. And during this fermentation, what is interesting is that the anaerobic microbe can be able to grow and multiply. As I said in the first slide, we have to give them food. We have to give them the shelter. So in that, then the anaerobic, you find they grow and multiply. And when time comes, then they hibernate. The aerobic fermentation will grow when the oxygen is still there. So you find supermicro presents all the microorganisms which are required for the healthy soil, and these microorganisms will be released later into the soil. Then we have others which undergo aerobic fermentation, like bokashi. Bokashi, I hope I think my mentor and my trainer, one friend, has talked about bokashi. Bokashi is a substance made up of different ingredients, as it has been mentioned, and these ingredients are fermented with the presence of oxygen. So you find as it is fermenting, it is offering the good environment for microorganisms to come and multiply, and then afterwards, then they will be able to put them into the fields. And once they are put into the fields, then it means it will be able to, once it's put in the fields, then they will be able to start multiplying. Then what biofertilizers inoculate the soil with microbes, introduce hormones, and provide nutrients. And these, once you put these biofertilizers, you expect that your soil will have all those benefits. Another slide, please.
Samuel, you've got 5 minutes to go.
Yes, biofertilizers have different. When I look at biofertilizers, I think they have different. They are in different categories. There are those which amend soil, as I've already talked about, but there are all those which actually bring the nutrients, but also there are others which stimulate the growth of the plants. Therefore, we have the so-called bokashi as biochar, solid and native microbes, and liquid native microbe, which are actually providing microbes. Then we have liquid and solid biostimulants introducing both microbes and hormones. Then we also have those which provide nutrients such as supermicro. Another slide, please. Another slide. Another slide. Yeah, what you see here, we are the photograph here is just showing the different type of biofertilizer. But what is interesting is the outcome of the biofertilizer, like in the picture on the right of your screen. You see the big bananas, which has been produced as a result of biostimulants, which you see at the left, at the right hand of your screen. But also you can see the color of the biostimulant which has been made here. And this is what actually we are doing. Another slide, please. Yeah, the same looking. When you are talking about biofertilizers, I think you need to read, they must be manufactured in a controlled environment. It's not just something put in maybe in the open. For example, up you can see bokashi, bokashi being manufactured. But then you can see already the different type of biofertilizers and biostimulants, and this is something which you're actually doing here at Lucid. And as we will be seeing in the coming slides, you see that as a result of this, a lot has actually come up as a result. Another slide, please. Yeah, when we take an example of bokashi, Lucid has been making bokashi, this soil amendment, and has seen tremendous benefits in all crops and soils improvement. You can imagine, look at the coffee, but here I am also showing the different macroorganisms and microorganisms, but also I'm showing how we are actually trying to continuously make bokashi, which will give positive results in our farming system. Another one, how it has worked in Uganda. The starting point is to have source of microorganisms, as you've seen, but also if you have to do this biofertilizer, you must understand that you have the microorganisms which you are going to start with. But also, it is always important to have a mini biofertilizer factory where microorganisms are housed and fed. But also, you must look at the clean field. From our example, I think we are very grateful for the Andhra Pradesh training, whereby we have actually got the 365 green cover. That is whereby the land is kept 365 with crops. And this one, once you release the already multiplied microorganisms for them, then they will start to work. And these are very important, that you must have a clean garden, whereby if you put these microorganisms which have come from the biofertilizers, then they also continue growing, and you find instead of them dying because of the chemicals, they will start multiplying, and then you see your field becomes fertile and the production goes higher. With as you continue working, then the need for adding more fertilizer becomes less, so it becomes labor saving. Another slide, please. Bokashi should be applied on the soil. Yeah, you see, as I said, once you have you are applying these biofertilizers, you should also take care that the sunlight doesn't actually kill the microorganisms. Therefore, direct sunlight, you have to protect the microorganisms. But also, you find you'll be using these different biofertilizers in different rates according to the plants. For example, as you see here, I'll not go through everything. In the nursery bed, bokashi is mixed in a ratio of 1 part to 4 parts of soil, and then you make a very good soil mixture, which means bokashi, these biofertilizers can be used at all stages of production. Another slide, please. For trees, you can even have your orchard whereby you have 2 parts of bokashi and 3 parts of soil, and you put around the plant. You just make either you make a small furrow around your plant, or you make a line in between the rows of your plant, and then you just put the bokashi and cover it, not very deep, but just a small furrow. But when you are transplanting, you can also use bokashi, but also You can see. So you find bokashi can be used even in the market gardens. So it becomes something universal. Another slide, please.
We'll ask you to conclude, Samuel. I know you're nearing the end.
Yes, so biostimulants sprinkled as a foliar feed and whatever. So you can do a lot of with. But what I think I want to talk about here, biostimulants, biofertilizers are very, very good in that they don't only fertilize, but they also help in pest and management control. This has been proved in many of our crops whereby you are using biofertilizers and then you find no diseases, no pests, but without even applying any biological pest repellent. Let me go to the last slide. The last slide, please. The last one. The last one where there is a conclusion. Yes. Yeah, bokashi gives high yields and high profit margin. It affects the soil by increasing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and enhances high organic matter content. It provides all the micronutrients in the right amount for plant growth and development. So I urge everybody to really take biostimulants, biofertilizers as the way which is going to help us promote agroecology. Thank you very much for listening to me, and also thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. This was a great share of the fundamentals combined with some very useful snippets of information. You delved a bit on the bokashi, and it was interesting to hear your specific experience on this, because now we're going to be hearing from our next speaker, also very much about bokashi, and we're going to take a deep dive into it, and we're going to see how your experience has contrasted perhaps with those of Michael, with those of Rido, of Royd Michello. Michael, I wanted to ask you to please screen share Royd's slide. Royd, if you want to get ready, please, to start your presentation. Well, I'll briefly introduce you. So Royd Michello is a small-scale farmer and agroecological facilitator based in Zambia's Lusaka province. He's got a tremendous amount of experience in the field of agroecological farming and collaborates with numerous agroecological partners, including the Zambian Alliance for Agroecology, Biodiversity, and Action Aid Zambia. Currently, he is also a contact farmer for the Seed and Knowledge Initiative, and he works for them as a part-time facilitator. And you will be interested to know that in 2021, Michello's farm was recognized as a community center of excellence for scaling up nutrition by the FAO in Zambia, recognizing a tremendous amount of varieties he's growing on his farm, that is 39 varieties being grown on his 5 hectare lands farm. So we welcome you, Royd, and your great expertise on the topic and the work you've been doing in Zambia with promoting bokashi. If you can please briefly switch on your camera so that we can see you before you start speaking, that would be great. And you will need to unmute so that we can hear you, Royd.
Thank you very much, Sansa. This is Royd Michello. I'm really happy to be part of this webinar. Can
you quickly put your camera on, Royd? Just so that we see you.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm saying thank you very much for hosting me actually to be part of this webinar where we talk about health soil in a sustainable way. My name is Royd Michello, who's leading Kapete Ecological Center here in Zambia. This area is Chongwe district, Chikivunda, and the village is Kondola village. I'm an agroecological farmer who is actively involved in water harvest management, pest and disease management in a sustainable way, and the soil fertility management, where we've done at least an outreach training on several groupings, starting from the youth, women, and the other NGOs that are part of agroecological activities. And my place, it has been declared by Food and Agriculture Organization FAO as a community center of excellence.
I've mentioned that, Roy. Can you put on your camera, Roy, so that we can see you before you start? I don't know if you heard the introduction about you. I was saying the nomination of your farm. Okay, if video is
are you able to see me?
No, I think we can keep it for the Q&A. Otherwise, it's not encroach on your speaking time. And if you want to go ahead with your presentation, then.
Okay. In the picture here, you can see this is a women group. Is in the western part of the country. This is a Mongu, where we went there to teach different women groups in areas of organic fertilizer, and this is a liquid biofertilizer. In picture, you can see this lady. She's a widow, actively involved in learning about liquid biofertilizer. Okay, we can move on to another picture. Here, we talk about bokashi. Bokashi, it has got a composition of ingredients to start with water, and this water, it has to be non-chlorinated. Number two, we need to put anti-use soil, and in most cases, maybe you don't have anti-use soil, you can go to a virgin land that has never been disturbed. You need to take the topsoil up to the depth of 15 centimeters. Number three, you need the charcoal dust. Number four, you need ash. Number five, you need lock dust. And this lock dust is optional. Number five, you need molasses, or in some areas, maybe you don't have molasses, you can use what you call rich dirt. You need also dry leaves, you need dry grass, you need yeast, and the type of yeast in brackets it has to be clover yeast. You need manure, and under manure, we need different types of manure. Why we need different types of manure? Because different manure have got different nutritional value. So in this case, we need to go for diversity so that at least you can have also diversity in terms of elements in the soil. Then the last one, we need maize plants. You can scroll. Here, there are some precautions that we need to take when we are making bokash, and these I would simply say these are the points to remember. Under dry leaves, we don't just pick ordinary leaves. There are certain leaves like mango leaves, avocado leaves. They are not recommended because of the oily content on the surface. Number two, bokash should not be subjected to strong wind, or because this might lead to loss of beneficial elements. You know, when we are making bokash, the whole intent there, apart from instituting the organic matter in the soil, we are trying to put life in the soil, make sure that at least we are trying to put life in the soil, and also we need also to supply what we call diversity in terms of elements. Now, it's not supposed to be subjected to strong wind because all the beneficial elements might be blown out by the wind. Then the other point we need also to put across is the issue of manure. In this case, actually advising for different types of manure, because the more you put a different type of manure, it means that there will be also diversity in terms of nutritional elements in the soil. Different animals that have got a different nutritional value in terms of manure. Let's talk about the chicken manure. Chicken manure, it has got high content of nitrogen. Goat manure, it has got a high content of things like phosphorus. So you find that if you can put chicken manure, you put goat manure, you put cow manure, you find that there will be diversity in terms of elements in the soil. The other point that I would like also to put across about bokash is that bokash should always be done under the shade. Why do we do that? We don't want to subject it to intense heat, because these beneficial elements, might escape through intense heat. So it has to be done under the shade so that at least by so doing, we'll be able to contain the beneficial elements. Then one thing again, I would like to talk about bokashi is bokashi should not be exposed to rainwater. Why? Rainwater contains acid. So you find that this acid, again, it might neutralize the elements that are present in bokashi. So we need to use, that's why we are using non-pollinated water, because it has to be free from all sorts of chemicals. Same applies to rainwater. We don't need rainwater. We need the water from the well, even from the dam, or any other source, but it has to be free from all forms of chlorine. And the other point that I can talk about bokashi is that bokashi, the major thing there is we are trying to feed the soil. When you feed the soil, we are not only feeding the soil, we are there to nourish the soil. So that when the soil is nourished, it means that they are going to give us nourished plants. And the nourished plants is going to feed at least, provide health food to humanity. So you find that it's a circle. You can scroll up. Sansa?
Michael, if
Hello?
you can, next slide, thank you.
Okay, application. Bokashi, when you're applying bokashi, there are certain precautions that we need to take. It is advisable that when you apply bokashi, take for instance, there are so many methods of land preparation. You can use the lift line or you can use the basins. So in this case, I want to talk about the basins under conservation agriculture. Yeah. So in this case, if you use bokashi, in case of maize is an example of a heavy feeder. In this case, you are going to use 2 handfuls, meaning it's 200 grams per station. And make sure that when you do that, we should not put the seed direct into bokashi, because it's highly concentrated. It might even squash the seeds. So what you need to do is when you apply bokashi in the station, make sure that at least you put some bit of soil there. Then that's when you put the seeds. In this case, we are simply saying it's not supposed to be in contact with the bokashi. The seed is not supposed to be in contact in the seed. Then apart from that, apart from the issue of contact, we are also trying to avoid the contact direct, even with the sunlight, because it might be also exposed to excessive sunlight, whereby at least beneficial elements there might evaporate through intense heat. So these are 2 precautions that we need to take. It has to be buried before you put something, to avoid one is stroking of the roots, and also the issue of evaporation. Point number 2, in nurseries, because under agroecology, we are not only talking about the level of productivity, there is also the issue of what we call agroforestry. Under agroforestry, we are also supporting what you call food forest. So there is also need for an agroecological farmer also to embark on the issue of nurseries. In this case, there's a ratio that we need to follow, and in this case, you follow 2 parts of bokashi and 3 parts of soil. You mix it together, and from there, if you put it in a pond, you plant, you find that you are going to have at least a healthy nurseries with diversity in terms of nutrients. Then another point is the transplanting leaf vegetables. In this case, you need to use a handful of bokashi, that is in brackets, you can say 100 grams, and this has to be applied for station. Then another point that I would like to bring to attention is also about the head-bearing vegetables, things like the cabbage. In this case, cabbage also is a heavy feeder. We are supposed to use at least 100, that is 200 grams per station. And as usual, you need to apply some bit of soil to avoid at least evaporation and also in contact with the transplanted planting.
Thank you. Okay. Can I give you 1 minute to conclude?
Okay, you can. let's move forward. Okay. In conclusion, under agroecology, the whole intention there is not about productivity, it's not all about a better yields, but the whole intention there is to feed the soil, is to nourish the soil, and to ensure that the active life in the soil is looked after, and the life in the soil that we need to look after is the living organisms, such as macroorganisms. Under macroorganisms, we can give an example of termites and ants. And also, we have got all these tiny ones that are called the microorganisms. And these are things like bacteria, fungi, and the nematodes. Another point is beneficial organisms, they play an active role in mobilizing the nutrients. We need these things. That's why under agroecology, we are not only fighting for fertility aspect, we are fighting for also life in the soil, so that these things are the ones that can help us to mobilize the nutrients in the soil. They can even assimilate it into their body and release it in the plant, in a variable plant, whereby the plant can be able to consume and make it available for the plant use. Another point is promotion of biomass in the soil. When you do the promotion of biomass in the soil, it creates a conducive environment for beneficial microorganisms. You see, these microorganisms, they live at room temperature, whereby at least when this biomass decomposes in the soil, at least it will be a source of food. And apart from that, it will create some air spaces whereby at least oxygen can be able to circulate within. And apart from that, it will create also density in terms of it would create a density in terms of water retention in the soil. You know, our activities now, our level of production, our level of productivity, we are doing it amidst climate change. I think, Sansa, this is all I can say. Although there are some pictures that you are able to see there, the benefit, the result of Bokashi, I think the rest is history. It's up to you to see what is happening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for it. We were going to screen one of your videos, but unfortunately we don't want to be running out of time. We have another speaker lined up. So we're just going to thank you for your input and the tremendous amount of very practical advice you've been sharing. So thank you for that. Just a reminder to everyone listening in that you can drop a question in the Q&A at any given time. There is a question there already if one of the speakers wants to take it up and write a response. With no further ado, I would like to invite our fourth and last speaker to get ready to present. Blessing, may I ask, would you like to run your own slide deck, or would you want us to run it on your behalf?
Can you please run it on my behalf?
Sure, we will get Michael to please then screen share along. So welcome, Blessing. Blessing Mugonziwa, who was actually the lead, if I'm correct, the lead researcher of a piece of research that was commissioned by Sky, and which focused on the effectiveness of biofertilizers and how these were adopted and adapted in the local context, and what your key findings were there, also in terms of the challenges that were encountered by practitioners in the field. Just a little bit about you, Blessing. Blessing Mugonziwa is a technical soil health consultant at FOM Bizanai Permaculture Center, and she's also a lecturer at the University of Zimbabwe. She holds a PhD in soil biogeochemistry from the Colorado State University, specializing in soil health and smallholder farming systems. You see the amazing lineup we have for you today. Her interests include soil health, farming systems, nutrient cycling, organic manures, and human dimensions of soil health management. We're very honored to have you with us today, Blessing, and the floor is yours. We will run the slides for you.
All right, thank you so much, Sasha. Good afternoon, morning, everyone. So as Sasha said, I was part of the team at Fambizane Permaculture Center that carried out a study on behalf of Sky, AFSA Sky, a scoping study to understand the context in which biofertilizers are being used. And we are looking at this as a panacea for healthy soils and ultimately for healthy food. So next slide, please. Yeah, so SKY, the Seed and Knowledge Initiative, has been partnering with different organizations and have been promoting biofertilizers since 2017. And you've noticed a great uptake of these biofertilizers, like the previous speakers have shown us. And so there's higher demand that has been happening for these biofertilizers. However, there's been a lack of research and documentation on the effectiveness of the biofertilizers being currently made and used, and also how we can enhance their uptake as well as potential for commercialization. So in 2022, SKY, under the Healthy Soil, Healthy Food Initiative, supported us as Farmers and Permaculture Center to do a scoping exercise as a preamble for a larger participatory research program on soil health practices in the region. Next slide, please. So the general objective of this scoping exercise was basically to put in context biofertilizer technology use, adoption, optimization, and its potential to healthy soil and ultimately healthy food in smallholder communities in Zimbabwe. So we had 5 main objectives. The first one was to understand and to evaluate the current practices on making the biofertilizers, as the farmers have been trained by SKY and SKY partners. And then to also investigate how the farmers have adapted and customized the use of the initial technology brought to them. And we also wanted to say to characterize the quality parameters of the biofertilizers that are currently being produced, and then to document the qualitative and quantitative benefits to yield and soil as reported by farmers, as well as measuring them in the lab. And lastly, we wanted to identify knowledge gaps on the preparation, use, and optimization and potential commercialization of the biofertilizers. Next slide, please. So the approach involved working with 3 partner organizations in Chimanimani district and Goto district. So the partner organizations we worked with were Tsuro, Poret, and Chinyika Community Development. And we had 4 main activities that we carried out with the officers and the farmers in those communities. We had focus group discussions, we had key informant interviews, and then we collected samples of the biochar and the bokashi and the liquid fertilizers, as well as the soils, for analysis in the lab. And we also did a technical support and progress monitoring activity. Next slide, please. So we found that in this, within the 3 organizations in these communities, bokashi was the biofertilizer that was strongly adopted, and farmers were using 300 grams to 600 grams of the bokashi per planting hole, mixing it with soil before planting. And they were mainly using this fertilizer on beans, on maize, tomatoes, coffee, mango, and small grains. So it's like a variety of crops. And then the fermented cow manure liquid fertilizer was strongly to medium adopted. But then we discovered that farmers were using various dilution rates, and it was not consistent. However, they applied this fermented cow manure on leaves early in the morning or at night, and also used the fertilizer on a variety of different crops. And then when it came to the native microbes, this was medium to weakly adopted sorry, the strongly adopted should not be there. It was medium and weakly adopted. The dilution was consistent, which was 1 liter of the liquid fertilizer to biofertilizer to 15 liters water. And the farmers were using this as top dressing on various crops as well. So these are the biofertilizers that were being mainly used. Next slide, please. So we also looked at the constraints that the farmers were facing. So their major constraint was the lack of manure. In this community, livestock ownership is very low. So farmers really don't have manure produced on the household that they can use to make these manures. So sometimes they had to have the recipe to suit the manure available, which wouldn't be enough to be applied on their fields, or they had to buy the manure from other farmers, which would prove expensive. And then the other constraint was the lack of information. So they said that they are receiving generalized information on application and on dilution rates, and it's not context-based, considering the agroecological or farming zones. For example, when you're using the liquid fertilizers in the very dry areas, they tended to have crop burn, whereas in the wetter areas, it was just okay. So there's need to have specific application rates tailored for each of the different climates. And they also alluded to the limited infrastructure. So this pertained to containers to make the fertilizers and to store the fertilizers, as well as safe storage conditions. Like the previous speaker said that the bokashi needs to store it away from the rain, you need to protect it from direct sunlight, etc. So the farmers alluded to lack of infrastructure. Next slide, please. So we also...
May, are you able to wrap in 2 minutes? I really am sorry to pressurizing you. I just want time for questions for you as well.
Okay, so farmers have adapted to this to using the fertilizers from the original recipes. They've substitutes, like for molasses, they're using fruit juices and sugar cane. And for yeast, they're using flour or a traditional brew, that is beer or a traditional drink. Next slide, please. And yeah, they talked about benefits to the soil that they observed. I think previous speakers talked about this. So let's go to the next slide. So we measured in the lab the benefits of the biofertilizers, and we saw that when you apply bokashi, you're going to increase soil phosphorus and also soil mineral nitrogen.
We ask you that you'll be able to give us rain.
Sorry, can we manage to unmute someone's mic there? I'm not sure where it's coming from. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. All right, so we noticed that there is an improved nutrient availability in the short term, so which we predict in the long term, it will be even better in terms of nitrogen and phosphorus in the soil. And we also saw that the bokashi had a low carbon to nitrogen ratio, which is what we require for materials that are favorable as organic amendments for the soil. And we also saw the presence of microbes. So we actually measured and we saw that there were high coliform forming units in the bokashi fertilizers as well as the liquid fertilizers, meaning that we have got a high presence of microbes. Next slide, please. So commercialization, not many groups are doing it yet. However, there are a few groups that are selling for a few dollars, as being said there. But the challenge still remains that they really don't know the nutrient content so that they can confidently tell their buyers what is in there. Next slide, please. Yeah, so in conclusion, there's strong adoption, there's potential for scaling out, and we noted the benefits. However, there are a number of knowledge gaps that were drawn out, and we think with a bigger study, we'll be able to fill those in. And so we need a more structured and wider project to be carried out. And we also need to have a long-term extensive research and monitor soil health parameters on the long-term basis. Thank you.
This is absolutely wonderful. Thank you. And it really adds value, blessings to the purpose of this session today. It's running off nicely with some challenges, and I'm going to drop in here for the benefit of all participants, the specific study that has been made. I don't think it's been translated into French, but this is the English version here. So thank you very much for this. What we're going to do next, just to ponder a little bit the elements of challenges, and I can see there's been questions being asked around this. I would like to ask all participants to please provide their input in a poll that we're going to be putting up on the screen. Charles from AFSA is managing this for us. So you will be seeing some questions up there on the screen. There they are. And we're going to give you a minute to go through them, because it's quite dense, but it's in English and in French, and I will read them so that you can just share with us in terms of your context, what are the most seminal challenges that have been encountered in the use, in the making and in the use of biofertilizers. And we'll see whether this echoes also what the speakers have been saying. So what is the biggest challenge you think we face in using biofertilizers in Africa? The first option is the limited availability or access to materials. Second one being lack of knowledge on how to make and use biofertilizers. Blessings, I think, said quite a bit about this. Lack of uptake of the promoted practices by the farmers, and the competitive pressure from agro dealers that sell conventional inputs and obviously keep people away from biofertilizers. You've got one response that you can provide. So we will give people another 10 seconds to make their choice. We have only 15 respondents for now. So with 56 people in the room, I would like us to increment our response rate. So please go through those questions if you need, and let us meet at least, I would like 50% of respondents. We can see there's an emerging picture, but I don't want to bias the results by reading them out. And so long, I would like to invite the representatives from the various HSHF centers who are taking part in this meeting today. I see a few names who are familiar, to perhaps manifest themselves if they would like to briefly comment and share their views, specifically with regards to this issue of challenge and what we could do about it in the use of biofertilizers and the uptake of these practices. So if any of those HSHF centers representatives want to manifest themselves with a hand up or in the chat box, just say yes, you're keen to speak on the issue for 1 or 2 minutes to share your experience. This would be most welcome. You see Jeremy Ferguson congratulating our work in the chat box. Thank you very much, Jeremy. Okay, we are lagging behind a little bit. I don't know if people are not seeing the poll. We only have 23 respondents, but I think for the sake of the Q&A, I would like us to move on. The emerging results seem to be that the lack of knowledge on how to make and use biofertilizers comes as one of the top issues. Can people see the results here? I don't know if it's because I'm a moderator that I'm only the one seeing the result of the poll. Is everybody seeing the results? Okay, so the lack of knowledge on how to make and use biofertilizers has been ticked by 39% of respondents. Coming next is the competitive pressure from agro-dealers selling conventional fertilizers. The next one is the limited availability or access to materials, and the last one being the lack of uptake of the practices that are promoted by the farmers. So thank you for contributing to this poll if you have, and I think your hand was up, Ferdinand, just now. So if you want to speak about this, please open your mic and, you know, bounce off and share your views about this.
Yes, I have point now. Sorry, I'm maybe the
your mic is not so clear. I don't know if you can fix your sound there.
Hello, am I audible now?
We can work out what you're saying. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead, Ferdinand. The quality is not great, but we can try and understand what you're saying. Please go ahead. Okay, we lost you.
Hello, Sasha, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, I would say I want to appreciate the presenters, and one among the presenters presented to Western Kenya. And the uptake is so good, and the critical factor is assessing quality. We are doing this in collaboration with the Bureau of Standards, and also with recently, just in the last month, also getting some equipment to be able to do having some rapid testing. And that's just what I can say is most critical, because farmers would like, and even other stakeholders, to compare the blood content, and so as to be able to assess quality. Yeah, that's what I can comment for now. And I had another question, but I'm sure we should type. I give a chance to answer.
Ferdinand, yeah, you're most welcome to drop your question in the Q&A if you don't mind, because the sound wasn't great there, but the very strong point made about quality assurance around the manufacturing of these products. Clément, so sorry, just before I give a hand to other speakers, other participants, because we have questions, we would like you to register your question in the Q&A, please. Clément, if you don't mind. Is there any other representative, Charles, from the HSFHF that I have missed that we could invite to just provide some comments on the challenges that are showing here? And
there's been quite a handful, but they have been joining and leaving. We had the Antusa from SAT, Bridget from Kasisi, Esther Lupafia, Esther Bet. I don't know if they are still here. If they are here, they can raise up their hands. If they have dropped, we could proceed with the next item on the agenda.
Sure, no, people only speak if they wish to speak, for sure. So I think it would just be nice to take up the question in the Q&A box, if you don't mind. A lot of people are asking about the challenges and what we do about it. Some Mallory Schillinger, obviously perhaps based in Zambia, was just asking about the challenges in terms of price or availability. So yeah, in terms of price and availability of the biofertilizers, most farmers are scared to switch to biofertilizers from chemical inputs. So there's obviously a dual element here, the fear of transitioning and of incurring losses. This mute and Jalway. So the fear of transitioning and incurring losses, and obviously the issue of the high price perhaps of inputs. So can we ask any of our speakers to perhaps comment on this, you know? And have you had any specific experience in helping farmers actually transition from conventional to agroecological practices? I suppose with a specific focus on the biofertilizers, and what is your experience? I think I would like this question to be addressed by our speakers. If anyone wants to have a go at it.
This is Nyanzi from Rusid. I think when you are talking about biofertilizers, I think you heard all through that we are dealing with living organisms. We are dealing with microbes. We are dealing with macrobes. We are dealing. So if you try to mix, for example, if you put biofertilizers and then you add some artificial fertilizers, but also artificial pesticides, then it means you are killing. You are killing. So the microbes. So I think it becomes a bit challenging. That's why I would say the concept of 365 green cover would be one way of actually try and transit or the transition from chemical to agroecology. But if you say that you are going to be mixing, then you are killing the microbes and it will not give you a very good results. And it will, because you are going back forward and backwards. That's what I can say. Maybe other token, my colleague can say something.
Thank you. What would be useful, thank you for that, Samuel. I think if the speakers can please look at the Q&A box and just provide any response that they can, type an answer so that the participants are not left wanting. But this is one element of answer. Again, a question about the challenges. I think we're really saying, that the knowledge uptake is important. And I think, in the sphere of knowledge, Blessing, you were pondering this element of, they don't know what are the metabolite constituents of, or the nutritional value of these biofertilizers. And I think that is an issue when looking at commercialization, for instance. I don't know if we can elaborate more on that issue, the challenge of knowledge, and what can be done about it. Blessings, do you want to maybe take that one?
Me, yeah, I think we've been working for many years all over Africa with different trainers and workshops, etc. And also we did many booklets and manuals and also videos. So I think is the way how the people can get access to all that information. But
just fine. Put your camera on when you're responding. It helps to. I'll do the same, liven up the stage. Thanks.
Okay. No, basically is how we can disseminate all this information and reach all the places in Africa. But there is a lot of material that healthy soil, healthy food, also Sky Seed and Knowledge are doing. So is how we can make better or more accessible all that info that is already there. So yeah. From my side, I think is a lot info and booklets and manuals, etc.
Yeah. Also, in terms of the application ratios, depending on specific contexts. Juan, if there's specific manuals and resources you can think of and that you can drop in the box here, but also on the Google Drive we have shared, I think this will answer some of the questions.
Yes, there is already some booklets. I think that you put already that we did 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think this has been a very dense discussion, and we've really discussed challenges, we've touched on challenges. But I think just before we close off formally this discussion, what would be useful for us, and I would like, while we do so, to still ask our speakers to go into the Q&A and to type an answer in any of the pending questions before we wrap, failing which we'll have to have these questions answered and dropped into the Google Drive of this webinar session, the link of which has been shared with everyone. Charles, are we able to put up the last poll questions we wanted to ask participants, because this has a bearing on the advocacy work that AFSA wants to take forward? We've looked at the challenges. Now we would like to invite in for some responses from the people in the room in terms of what could be done about this. So we have a question we would like to address to you. I think, Charles, you're going to be dropping a Mentimeter link in the chat box.
Yeah.
And maybe we can have also, Michael, if you can put up our master slide deck where this question shows, and we can get people's critical insights on this. Michael, are you able to screen share the master slide deck? Thank you so much. It would be, I think, the second last slide. There we go, Paul 2. Thank you so much. And Charles, if you're able to drop the link to the Mentimeter, there we go. It's in the box. Sorry, I hadn't seen it. In your view, what should be done at a policy level to promote the use of biofertilizers in Africa? So obviously, we would like you to respond to this question, taking into consideration the big picture in terms of the challenges as these have been identified. Competition from conventional input suppliers, limited knowledge on how to use fertilizers, and the constraint in accessing inputs. So if you can think of one high-level discrete intervention which you think would make a difference, and drop it as a response in the Mentimeter, that would be great. And we give people time to go on the Mentimeter to do this. So you follow the link, click on the website there, and you can see you've got about 200 characters that you can enter, of text that you can enter. Okay, and I'm seeing a comment here that's being shared by Clément. Clément, I don't know where you're from. He's saying he dropped it in French. I think is directly addressed to me, but it should be in the Q&A. There's an interesting dynamic that's being observed in terms of input substitution. I think Blessing, you were speaking about this as well, where the resources are not available. Farmers are extremely creative. So, you know, to activate the sugars in your mix, use some ripe banana peels. I think you mentioned that example from the sites that you've observed, Blessing. And in his context, Clément was saying that when it comes to the fibrous biomass needed, when the rice coatings are missing, they use the grounded coffee material as a substitute input to make bokashi, or to also substitute it for wood chips. So this is an interesting observation that I wanted to share with others. Are we able to screen share, Charles, the results of the Mentimeter? We're not going to expand too much on it because we've run out of time, but I think we could just show a brief picture of it. And to all those questions that are being asked in the chat box about the manual for today's training, the presentations, the study commissioned by Sky, these are all in the Google Drive. We have shared the link previously. I'm going to drop it in the box again. We have already populated a Google Drive with all the links that contains in French and in English all the materials of today's webinar. So here it is. Are you winning, Charles, with
Yeah, the website is loading extremely slowly, but
okay.
Yeah, I will notify you when it opens.
Yeah, and it's actually also fine. We can include it in the report of today's session that will also be broadly shared when we're ready with participants. I know, Mara, you wanted to see the detailed questions of everyone. I don't know that you, I think you can't actually see the Q&A box. But what we'll do, since our time is up, is we will include in a report of today's session all the questions that have been asked. We will organize them And we will ask our presenters for today to respond to those that have not been addressed. So I want to thank everyone for their beautiful contributions to this webinar, to our 3 presenters. Thank you very much for your input, and we will ask more of your contributions in the questions that have not been answered. And we want to ask everybody to look up for the next date, which is the 27th of October, when we have our next webinar lined up, same time. So thank you to the APSA team and everybody in the organizing committee for their beautiful dedication to get this webinar off the ground. And we will see you when we talk about crop health management practices. So that's it from my side. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Do we want a family photo? Switch on videos and take a picture.
Everybody, camera on if you can.
Thanks so much for this fantastic seminar. I really enjoyed it. It's ranking really at the top of any webinars on agroecology that I participated in, being so concrete and from people actually applying this, really fantastic. Thanks.
Thank you very much for positive feedback. And with this many agroecology webinars happening as well. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are we ready for the photo? Can we have more cameras on?
Oh, what the camera is on. You can know on the camera.
Francis.
What camera is on? For which?
Okay, are you done with the screenshot, Michael?
Big smile. Everybody smile. Say hi.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
One friend, I can see you, Matt. But hello.
Bye.
Yes, everybody. Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye for now. Bye.
Bye. See you soon.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. Well done.
Bye. Thank you.
Good job.